Let me ask you something. When you picture living in Las Vegas, what do you actually see? Casinos everywhere, bright lights, late nights, and maybe a slot machine sitting in your living room? Is that really what you see? Because that's the version most people have in their head, like the entire city is just one long weekend that never ends. Then people get here and it feels like showing up to what you thought was a nightclub, only to realize you just walked into a really nice suburb with an HOA and quiet hours at 10 p.m. It throws people off. It really does, because this place is not what most expect, not even close. The version of Las Vegas people move here for and the version they actually experience are two completely different things. And that gap is getting bigger quickly. Some people land here and feel like they've upgraded everything overnight. Better house, more space, a lifestyle that just feels easier. Others have that moment where they pause and they think, wait, this isn't what I thought it was gonna be. Same city, same zip code, completely different experience. Here's where things really start to click for people, or completely just throw them off, because most people moving here think they are about to live inside The Hangover, right? Like that movie set the standard for Vegas. Like their day-to-day life is just going to be rooftop parties, blackjack tables, and waking up wondering why there's a tiger in the bathroom. That's the expectation. The reality, it's a lot more like Costco runs, school drop-offs, and figuring out which Starbucks line is moving the fastest, because there's pretty much everyone on every corner, right? But day-to-day life here looks nothing like what people picture. The Strip is maybe 5% of the city, and unless you work there or you've got friends in town every other weekend, you're not going nearly as often as you think. Most people are living in master planned communities, places like Summerlin, Henderson, Inspirada, Sky Canyon, right? All these nice places. You got parks everywhere, walking trails through the communities, shopping centers, restaurants, schools, all built into the neighborhood. It's clean, it's organized, and honestly, it feels more like a well-designed suburb than anything close to what you see in movies. I tell people all the time, where I live does not feel like Vegas at all right? But that's the part that just messes with people. They come in expecting something that feels like a scene out of a Vegas movie, and instead they're driving through quiet streets, seeing families at parks, people walking their dogs at sunset, especially in the summer, grabbing coffee at the same spots every single weekend. It's almost like living in two completely different cities at the same time. You got the version everyone sees on TV, and then you got the version people actually live in, right? And once that clicks in, one of those two things usually happens. Either you love it because you realize you can tap into all the chaos when you want to, and then you can leave it all behind and go home to something calm and relaxed. Or it feels slower than what you had built up in your head, and it's kind of like expecting Vegas to be a 24/7 party and realizing most of your week looks pretty normal, just with better restaurants and a lot more sunshine. While I have you here, if you're starting to think about moving out here and you're trying to figure out where you'd actually want to live, or if you're already here in Vegas, right, and not just what looks good online, that's exactly what me and my team help people with every single day. My name is Ryan. I'm a local realtor out here in Las Vegas, and my team and I work with a lot of people relocating from out of state who are in that same position, trying to make sense of different areas and the lifestyles and all these surprises and what actually fits them best. So if you got questions, you're trying to narrow things down, or you just want to talk through your situation, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help and point you in the right direction, because once you actually understand how this city is laid out and where people are really living, it starts to make a lot more sense why Las Vegas is changing the way it is. And that shift is a lot bigger than more people realize. Once you spend a little time out here and you just start noticing something pretty quickly, this city is constantly in motion, and not in a subtle way. It shows up in the little things first. You'll be driving somewhere you haven't been in a few months, and suddenly there's a whole new shopping center, a new set of lights, and a turn lane that definitely wasn't there last time. You kind of pause for a second like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. Then you zoom out and you realize it's not just one area. It's happening all over the valley. You've got major projects on the Strip that are hard to miss. You got the A's Stadium, that's going up where the Tropicana used to be, and that's gonna completely change that section once it's finished. Not far from there, you drive by and you see the Hard Rock guitar-shaped hotel going vertical. That's happening right now too. to, which is one of those things that almost doesn't look real at first, but it's happening. Then you've got the Brightline train being built that's eventually going to connect Vegas to Southern California in a couple hours, which is going to pretty much change how people move between the two. All right. And then that's just the obvious stuff. That part, the part that sneaks up on people is what's happening off the strip. You got areas on the edges of the city where development is moving fast. All right. Summerlin keeps pushing further west, and they're just going to keep pushing further west. Henderson keeps filling in just with new communities, and the northwest part of the valley, right? It just has neighborhoods that feel brand spanking new. They pretty much are, but they're already filling up and running, right? It's not the kind of growth where a few houses get added here and there. You'll see a patch of land that's completely empty, and then not that long after, there are model homes, people touring, and within a year it feels like a neighborhood that's been there for a while. I actually have friends from kids that I coach and stuff out here, and I talked to a few parents who actually grew up here, and you don't find a lot of those. All right, they're almost like a rare breed, finding somebody that grows up here. Even at basketball practice last week, one of the dads telling me, he's like, I went to school over there as a kid, and I remember this just all being dirt rock desert. And he's like, now man, this is crazy. But this is where we get to when the parks are done and the streets are finished and people are out walking their dogs. Like, it's always been part of the city. That pace is what catches people off guard, because from the outside everything can look pretty similar. Nice homes, clean streets, newer communities, it all like checks those same boxes on paper. But once you're here, you start to realize that where you land matters a lot more than people think. Some areas are building up around you in a way that makes everything more convenient over time. More places to go, more things nearby, easier day-to-day life. Other areas you might be dealing with, construction longer than you expected, or you're just a little farther from the places you actually end up regularly going. And those differences, they don't really show up, when you're just scrolling online, right? And you're just swiping through and you're scrolling online, or even when you are here for a quick visit. You usually feel it after you've been living here for a little bit. And that's why timing and location plays such a big role right now, because the city's not standing still, right? It's moving, it's shifting while people are trying to make decisions about where to live. And the interesting part there is a lot of people are still basing those decisions on what they think Las Vegas looks like and not what it's turning into, right? It's just now, not later. And that really starts to show when you get into the numbers. And what your money is actually buying depends on where you end up. Once people start digging into housing here, that's usually where things either start to make a lot more sense or get a little confusing, because Las Vegas still carries this reputation of being cheap, and depending on where you're coming from, it can feel that way at first. Right now, the median home price in Las Vegas area is sitting around, the 450 to 460,000s, low 500s, right? A little bit of a range there because of the fluctuation, but compared to places like California or even parts of the East Coast, it still looks pretty reasonable on paper. Once you start narrowing things down, you realize pretty quickly that not everything is priced the same, and it's not supposed to be. All right, take something like the northwest part of the valley, areas that are still building out, still growing. You can find newer homes in that roughly $400,000 to $500,000 range, sometimes even a little under, depending on the neighborhood, all right, that you're looking at. You're getting newer construction, modern layouts, pretty much everything clean and updated with a lot of the new tech, all right? But the trade-off is you're a little bit further out, the area is still catching up around you, and for a lot of people, that works just fine, all right? It's newer, it's quiet, and you're okay with things filling in over time. Now compare that to somewhere like Summerlin, all right? You're looking at a completely different ballgame. Medium prices there are typically pushing into the 600s, 700s, and even higher depending on the village and how close you are to everything. Same idea with parts of Henderson, especially in more established areas. You're paying more, but you're also getting a more built out environment, more convenience, more of that everything is already here feeling. And what throws people off is how similar homes can look online. You can pull up two houses, similar size, similar finishes, both look great in photos. That's pretty much always online, right? One's in the 400s, the other's in the 700,000s, okay? 400,000s to be exact, right? That range, okay? On a screen, they don't look that different. But once you're here, you realize one is 10 to 15 minutes from everything that you actually end up doing, and the other one has it all right around the corner. And that changes your day, right? The way more than a backsplash in the kitchen ever will. That's the part that doesn't always translate when people are researching from out of state. Everything looks like a great deal until you understand what you're trading for that price. Some people come here and feel like they just leveled up. I know we did. More space, newer home, less stress compared to where they came from, right? Other people come in thinking everything is gonna feel like a bargain, and then realize pretty quickly that location still matters here just like it does anywhere else. Vegas still gives you more for your money than a lot of major cities. It's just not a one-size-fits-all kind of deal anymore. When people get past the numbers and actually settle in here, this is usually the part that catches them off guard. How normal life starts to feel just with way better options around you. Because if your only reference point for the Vegas is the Strip, you think living here, feels like you're in a scene from Ocean's 11 on a random Tuesday. No, in reality, like most of your life ends up looking a lot more like running errands, grabbing coffee, and figuring out where you're eating that night. Just with a lot more good choices than people expect. The food here is absolutely amazing. And then you start building routines pretty quickly too, right? If you're in Summerlin, you might find yourself around downtown Summerlin more than you thought. Grabbing coffee, walking around, maybe stopping into places like Makers and Finders or Vesta Coffee, dinner spots like North Italia or Jing, catching a game, or just being somewhere that has energy without dealing with the Strip. Our favorite Korean barbecue place to go to, we just went again last weekend. We pretty much know the staff in there at this point, is in Summerlin. Summerlin pretty much has it all, and again, that's without going to our favorite Korean barbecue right down the road. Okay, and then you got Henderson, especially around Green Valley or Inspirada. You got places like the District at Green Valley Ranch where people end up all the time. Restaurants, shopping, easy places to just meet up without it turning into a whole production just to go out. All right, and then you got Durango Casino in the southwest side, which is a good example of how Vegas is evolving. It's not just rows of slot machines. It feels more like a mix of lounge, a food hall, and a place you just actually choose to go, not just somewhere you randomly end up. I know a lot of people that travel more than 30 minutes just to hang out in the Durango Casino and watch football on the weekends or the March Madness tournament. Like they go down there because it's a great place to hang out. That's the part people just don't expect. You're not living on the Strip, right? You're living around these smaller like pockets that have their own rhythm, and once you find your spots, that's where most of your time goes. The food scene is another one, okay? Everyone knows the big name restaurants, but once you live here, you start finding places off the Strip like that Korean barbecue place that I just mentioned that are just as good, without the parking, without all the headache, and without feeling like you need to get dressed up just to go to dinner. Vegas has this mix where you can go somewhere really nice and it still show up in a t-shirt and be completely fine. It's kind of like if LA relaxed a little and stopped trying so hard. And then that balance is what a lot of people end up liking more than they expected, because you still have access to everything, all right? But if you want the full Vegas experience, it's there. Shows, restaurants, nightlife, all of it is there, but it's not your everyday reality. Most days feel pretty normal. You just happen to live in a city where if you decide last minute you do want to go to that night's game or whatever it is and you do want to go out, you got way more options than people realize. So up to this point, everything probably sounds pretty solid, and for a lot of people it is. But like any city, there's a few things that don't always show up in the highlight reel, and you'll feel them pretty quickly once you're here. The first one is the heat, and it's hot. Like everybody says it's hot. I've lived in a lot of places, and everywhere you go, it's hot. It's hot everywhere. It's a different kind of heat though, all right? Everyone expects that, because out here, it's more like stepping outside in the middle of the summer and feeling like you just opened an oven to check on something, and that you get that right in your face from the oven, except you're the thing in the oven. All right, that's pretty much what it is. Your steering wheel is basically off limits until further notice, and you learn real quick to park based on where the shade will be in 3 hours, not where it is right now. You adjust to it, but there's definitely a learning curve. Another one is how spread out everything is. Vegas is not a dense, considered walkable city in most areas. It's not, okay? You're driving pretty much everywhere. Grocery store, gym, dinner, all of it. At first, it doesn't seem like a big deal because the roads are wide. They really are really wide roads, and everything feels easy to get to. Then you realize your quick trip is still a 10 to 15 minute drive almost every time. It's not a bad thing. You just have to be okay with being in your car more than you might have thought you'd be, right? We don't really really have a good like bus transit system here. Okay. Then there's the construction. And this ties back into everything we talked about earlier, because the city is growing so fast, you're going to see it. Roads getting expanded, new communities going up, traffic patterns changing. They've had this construction on the West 215 in Summerlin, where the speed limit drops from 65 to 55. It's been there forever. All right. And if you know what I'm talking about, go ahead and leave me a comment. It's been there forever. And now they're getting like, we're all hoping it'll end soon. But they also joke that, you know, the state bird or state symbol or whatever you want to, however you want to talk about it, to recognize the state is going to be that orange construction cone, because it's really that bad. All right. But, you know, you'll find yourself taking one route consistently, and then one day it is cones, it's lane shifts, and now you're figuring it out again. It's just part of living in a place that's actively building. And then there's one that just doesn't get talked about enough: expectations. A lot of people come here thinking everything is going to feel cheaper, easier, and just simpler across the board. And in some ways it is, but Vegas isn't some hidden cheat code anymore where everything is half the price and life is effortless. It's growing, it's evolving, and certain parts of it are getting more competitive. So if you come in expecting one thing and the reality is slightly different, that's usually where people start to feel off. None of these are deal breakers, at least not in my opinion. They're just things that if you know going in, making the transition is going to be a whole lot smoother, because when you understand both sides of it, the upside and the trade-offs, which is why we're going over this, you can make a much better decision about whether the city actually fits how you want to live. At this point, it really comes down to one simple question: does this actually fit how you want to live? Because Las Vegas works really well for certain people, and for others, it just doesn't line up. If you're someone who likes having space, newer homes, planned communities, and a lifestyle where things feel a little more spread out and organized, Vegas tends to make a lot of sense. You've got room to breathe out here. You're not stacked on top of your neighbors necessarily. You're not circling the block looking for parking, and your day just feels a little less chaotic overall. It also works really well if you're coming from somewhere more expensive, like I did, like me and my family did, and you're trying to get a little more for your money without completely downgrading your lifestyle. A lot of people move here and feel like they've finally stopped doing mental math every time they swipe their card. And if you're someone who doesn't mind driving, or honestly prefers it, you'll probably settle in pretty quickly. Out here, a 10 to 15 minute drive is basically considered right down the road. Nobody's like stressing about that. On the flip side, if you're used to a very walkable city, everything is right outside your door, where you can step out and immediately be in the middle of everything, Vegas can feel a little too spread out for you if that's you. Okay. You're not accidentally stumbling into a coffee shop or a restaurant. You're choosing where you're going and driving there. If your expectation is that every day is going to feel a high energy, fast pace all the time, that's usually where people start to feel a little disconnect. The version of Vegas exists, you just have to go find it. It's not sitting outside your front door on a random weekday. And if you're coming in thinking everything is going to feel extremely cheap across the board, that's usually where expectations need just a small reset. Vegas still has value, but it's not the everything is on clearance, version people sometimes picture. None of this is good or bad. It just comes down to fit, because the people who really do well here are the ones who understand what the city actually offers and just lean into it a little bit more. And the ones who struggle a bit are usually trying to make Vegas feel like somewhere else instead of letting it be what it is. At the end of the day, Las Vegas in 2026 is a very different city than what most people picture before they get here. It's not just a place you visit anymore. For a lot of people, it's become a place where you can actually build a lifestyle that makes sense long term. You got growth, you got opportunity, and you got a mix of options depending on how you want to live. But like we talked about, it's not one size fits all. Where you land, how you approach it, and what you expect going in is what ends up shaping your experience here. And that's really the key. The people who take a little time to understand how the city actually works before making the move tend to have a much smoother transition. They know what they're getting into, and they put themselves in a position where it actually fits. If you're in that stage right now, trying to figure out if Vegas is the right move, what areas, make sense based on your lifestyle and budget, or what your options actually look like based on just an entire situation, that's exactly what me and my team help people with every single day. My name's Ryan. I'm a local realtor here in Las Vegas, and my team and I work with people relocating from all over the country, helping them make sense of the different areas, the market, and what's actually going to fit their lifestyle best. best. So if you got questions, you're really trying to narrow things down, or you just want to talk through things before making a big decision, feel free to reach out. Our information is right there on the screen and it's down in the description below. We're always happy to help and point you in the right direction. And if this gave you a better picture of what living in Las Vegas actually looks like today, let me know where you're thinking about moving from, okay? I always like seeing where people are coming from and what they're comparing it to. But if you're not ready yet and you're still in that discovery mode, you can keep on discovering right here on my channel with more of our videos that are popping up for you somewhere on the screen here. You can go ahead and click that right now.